My friend offered to buy my house for $1, so I evicted her.
You cheap person.
So backstory, I, 31 female, grew up pretty poor. I don't remember it well, but at one point my parents and I were only able to afford to eat beans and rice. Dang. My parents have since been able to pull out of poverty, and while they aren't rich, they are comfortable. And I have used a lot of what I experienced as a kid as motivation to be super careful with money. By the way, this comes from Just Xander on the r/OK Storytime subreddit. So I got a job in high school, worked odd jobs on the side, saved up every penny, rode my bike everywhere instead of driving and paying for gas. And by the time I moved out of my parents' place, I had a little over $17,000 in my savings. I don't have that much tucked away anymore, but I have investments and emergency funds and take my family's finances incredibly seriously, as I never want my children to experience what I did as a kid. Mine and my husband's financial choices afforded us the opportunity to purchase a home in the beginning of 2015, which we bought 50-50 with his mother. He paid his half up front, I made a large down payment, and his mother covered the rest with an escrow agreement that I would pay off what she had purchased. I've since completely paid my half, and the house is fully owned by myself and my husband. It's a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bath, 2-story home with a finished basement attached to car garage on a double lot. Dang! We got the house for an absolute steal at only $118,000 for sale by owners. Since purchasing, we have installed a fence, updated the oven, washer and dryer, water heater, furnace, and paid for materials to have all the interior rooms repainted. The only updates it needs are purely cosmetic, as the exterior paint is an ugly brown pink color, which we have started repainting and need to finish. The hardwood floors have some distortion due to being a 100-plus-year-old house and us having dogs when we live there, and the bathroom could use an update, but structurally speaking, doesn't need one. Sounds like a great house.
Sounds like a great house.
Needless to say, on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being tear down the house and start over, and 5 being it's ready to put on the market to sell for $300K today, the house is sitting at 3.5 to 4.
Okay.
Backstory complete. Let's get into what has become my biggest headache for the past 4 years. I have a friend, let's call her Carly, female 27, who had incredibly similar experiences to me growing up, but struggles with finances and has never seemed to get the hang of keeping any sort of savings over $50 at a time. I'm not sure if it's lack of self-control or that she's simply too focused in the moment when she gets paid and doesn't think to look long-term, but she consistently makes her lack of funds everyone else's problem. I don't blame her for having issues with money, as learning to create a budget isn't exactly taught in school, and it took me years to learn to find a healthy balance. And the freedom of being able to buy whatever you want with no restrictions is super tempting, but at some point you have to learn to take responsibility. During the course of our friendship, I have helped her build countless budgets based off my own. I made a roughly the same amount of money as her, but each time they failed for whatever reason. So this friend doesn't seem too good with money. We tried different ways to try to trick her brain into realizing that money sitting in her account wasn't to be touched, as everything needed to be used for bills, etc. And each time she would wind up still using every penny. It finally came to the point where I refused to help her with the budget anymore because she never listens to my advice. And when I pointed out the easiest and fastest method to get her spending under control was to get a payee, she said she didn't need to be treated like a child who receives an allowance. Okay, so someone who holds your money so you don't spend it.
Yep, a person receiving money from another party, the payer, during a financial transaction.
Yeah. Fair enough. I wash my hands with that topic. Carly moved out of her mom's house a little over 6 years ago into a mutual friend's place. Let's call her Tia, female 27. As far as I've been told by Tia, Carly paid little to nothing in rent, even though they both worked at the same company and made close to the same salary. Carly's living space was an absolute disaster.
I can imagine.
She moved into the basement, and it was lucky if there was even a walkway to get to the washer and dryer. She constantly asked me to come over to help her clean and organize her space. And because I'm a people pleaser, I would always agree.
Oh.
Each time we'd make significant progress, but then by the next weekend, when I would come over to help again, it was as if a tornado had gone through her space in the course of a week. I have no idea how she was able to fit so much stuff in that tiny space. She would never clean up on her own or make any sort of effort to put anything away and would always wait for me to come over. And if anyone were to come down to watch us, it was always me cleaning or organizing while she sat back and dictated where everything went. Getting her to donate or throw anything away was like pulling teeth, as somehow even the smallest scrap of paper had some sort of sentimental value. After a little over a year of them living together, Tia couldn't handle it anymore and asked Carly to find some other living situation. All right, so Tia's like, I'm done with this crap.
Yeah,
I'm done.
I see it. I get it.
Which I feel like I understand too. She wasn't going to throw her on the street, but she literally couldn't live with Carly any longer. There are a lot of other things that built up that caused this, but I won't go into that there. It just so happened that my husband and I had purchased a second home co-op around the same time. What we had owed on the first was paid off. My husband had come into inheritance, and we were able to look for our forever home that better fit our wants and needs. The best part for us is that the new house was literally a 5-minute drive from the old house.
Easy.
We had yet to decide whether we wanted to sell or rent our first house when Carly approached us with the offer of renting it from us. She and 2 other friends were looking to move in together, and with the house being as big as it was, there was plenty of space for all of them to have their own room and privacy. Since we hadn't decided if we wanted to sell, and there were 3 renters already lined up, we decided to use it as a means of passive income to invest in our future, and then down the road, we would revisit whether or not we wanted to sell it or keep it as a rental. The red flag that I didn't initially pick up on was that Carly was already referring to the house as her house. Oh, man.
I know where this is going.
To her 2 potential roommates even before moving in and signing the lease. So by the time it came to them all moving in, Carly had driven the other 2 girls to back out. The way I had written the original lease agreement was that the rent was flexible depending on how many tenants were there. So for the 3 of them, they would have only been paying $750 total per month. And if only one person was renting, it would be $400 per month.
A deal.
In this area, you can expect to rent a bedroom for $400. So that was a crazy good deal, as we really didn't need the money, and it was mainly to pay for insurance, power/heat, and property taxes. In the 4 years that Carly has lived in that house, rent has gone up 5 times. Once to $500 a month because the power bill went up, and we need to adjust for that. The second time to $550 a month due to the same reason. And the third time to $750 after she got a new job in last year in October. More on that later. Also, in the 4 years she had lived there, 2 separate opportunities for roommates have backed out each time because she was setting the rules and referring to the property as her house. So basically, she's making it impossible for her to have roommates.
Yeah.
Despite having 0 claim to the house and the fact that each person would have their own lease agreement. When she first moved in, she was working a minimum wage job and she was my friend, hence the low monthly rent. But a year and a half ago, got a new job at a local university 30 minutes drive away that pays very well and has great benefits. But somehow she manages to blow through her entire paycheck on I don't even know what. Also, during the course of these past 4 years, she wound up owing $750 in back rent as she was repeatedly unable to pay me the full monthly amount due to repeated miscalculations in her budget and overspending on garbage, which she then stuffed into mine and my husband's property.
Oh, man.
I mean, yeah, I don't know why OP rented to someone that she knew was really bad with money.
Yeah. When she was like, oh, she just constantly drains her bank account like a certain website I know. Why would you trust that person?
Yeah, exactly.
Why would you do it?
My husband and I realized it after a couple years of being landlords that we weren't cut out for it. We have too much on our plates and no time for upkeep, and Carly wasn't holding up her end of the rental agreement that she had signed. We talked about it and settled on the decision to sell, but we of course didn't want to throw Carly onto the street and informed her of our plan. She proposed to buy it from us and started going through the route of getting a loan, which there's no way Carly would be able to afford.
So, not a chance.
During this process, she realized that the house wasn't what she wanted. She wanted land, and the house itself was far too big for her. She told us that, and we understood. And I even helped drive her to meet her with realtors so she could check out other options to buy houses elsewhere. But each one fell through as she discovered that she wasn't going to get a new homeowner's discount or bargain with any loans that she looked at. And all the loans required a minimum of 10% down payment, which of course she didn't have.
Dude, what did she expect? A new homeowner's discount? It's like this isn't a coffee at a cafe.
It don't matter how much you have in your bank account unless you're trying to buy a house. If you have like $50 in your bank account, don't go trying to buy a house because there's no way you can.
Like they're out here, they're not giving me deals on loans. They're asking for 10%. I mean, 10%? That's like
It's 30 grand.
Usually 20%.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about?
This is where the entitlement starts. Carly wasn't going to be able to buy a home, at least not the home she wanted, and settled on buying our house. We briefly talked at the very beginning of our tenancy and that we may consider a rent-to-own situation, but no agreement had been made. No sale price had been decided, no appraisals or property inspections completed, nothing had been signed. It was simply a comment that was made in passing and then chatted about later again in passing. She took it as gospel truth and said that if she bought the house, that she expected the 2.5 years of rent she paid us to be comped off the total sale of the house. Nah, dog.
Beggars, they can't be choosers.
I reminded her that we never signed anything about a rent to own and informed her that wasn't how this was going to work. Her next tactic was to try to suggest that we quit claim deed the property to her, again, without her paying us anything additional to the 2.5 years worth of rent she already paid us. How this works is that whoever owns the property grants the title/deed to whoever they're giving it to, and it's generally a lot faster and cheaper than going through the process of buying a house. But there's still generally something paid for the property when the title is transferred. So she essentially wants them to give her a house for free.
Just give me the house. Like,
At this point, she'd only paid $10K in rent, more than half of which went to paying for utilities that we covered instead of having her pay them, and property taxes. And she was making it sound as if she wasn't going to give us anything beyond that. The entitlement. The entitlement is crazy.
They've basically made no money while you're doing. So basically, she's like, hey, make zero money on this house that you own.
It's a great deal.
What?
For me, great deal.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. Why are you so mad?
I again told her that this would not be a viable option. The house was in great condition, and even with the exterior paint and repairs to the floors and bathroom, was worth at least what we had paid for it, $118K. She tried to spin it that she was doing us a favor by taking it off our hands, as I had expressed to her that we were tired of being landlords and it was more an effort than we had time for.
Yeah, she's tired of being your landlord.
You are making the landlording difficult. Her last attempt at buying the house on her own was to offer me $1.
It ain't nothing.
Whoa.
That is true. It ain't nothing. That is true. That's right, a single dollar. I'll admit, I don't know if this was a failed joke attempt on her part, but it certainly fell flat, and I was so mad I was shaking, though I laughed it off. Side note, during the time she has lived in the house, my husband and I have some stuff stored in the garage as Carly parked on the street due to convenience, and she suggested on multiple occasions that she start charging us rent for storing things in our own house when none of it was in her way whatsoever. And we had already made it clear that if she purchased the house, that we would remove all of our property.
If the landlords are to pay you for storing some stuff, we would be millionaires.
That is true. That is true. Our landlords were storing stuff in our garage all the livelong day.
Yeah.
At the end of 2022, Carly started dating Reggie, 28 male. They were long distance and would take turns visiting each other. And Carly made the comment to Reggie that we were looking to sell the house. And we threw out a couple numbers, the very lowest being $100K, which means they would be losing money.
Yes.
Sorry, $100K for a house?
Yeah, but they bought it for $118, but said that we, of course, would have an appraisal and look at the market value. How much do you think the market value of this house is? I'm guessing like $250.
I'll stick with 3.
He offered to buy it from us and said that he would start the process in March/April of 2023. I was relieved. My husband was relieved. Carly was relieved. Everyone was looking great. Some information about Reggie at the time. He's a retired Marine. He gets a monthly check from the government for close to $2,000 on top of his well-paying job. I'm guessing based on what Carly told me, but at the time he made his offer, he was probably making $4,500 to $5,000 a month. When March/April came around, Carly and Reggie informed us that he would not be able to afford paying both his rent, where he lived, and a monthly mortgage payment, and wouldn't be able to start the purchase process then, but would start the purchase process in October instead when he planned to move in with Carly. Before Reggie moved in, an ex-friend offered to rent a room in the house from Carly and pay her despite subletting being clearly stated in the lease agreement as prohibited.
I bet she would have charged him $750 a month.
Yeah. Let's see. So Carly so generously offered to pay us some of the amount that she was paid. The agreement fell through and the friend did not stay in the room. I'm not exactly sure why he chose to do things the way he did, but Reggie didn't start the purchase process at all until after he had moved and quit his job, meaning the only source of income he had to show to a mortgage company was a monthly stipend from the government, which even with the veteran's loan doesn't work as proof of income.
Yeah.
When he moved in, rent increased to $1,000 a month, which is still under value for the size of the home, and a brand new rental agreement was written and signed stating that if they had not started the buying process to purchase the house from us by mid-April of 2024, that we would not be renewing the lease, nor would we work with them on a month-to-month rental options, as myself and my husband are completely and totally over this mess.
Yeah.
Which I can understand.
Yeah.
What a mess.
Very much a mess.
We also stated in the rental agreement that we were not going to list the house for sale as a sign of good faith to allow Reggie and Carly first choice on the house to buy it. Why? Why are you giving them this? They have done nothing but cause you headaches. You just need to take your house and run away from these people.
Yeah, we have to stop. Also, what is Reggie's relation to Carly and everyone else again?
Their boyfriend, girlfriend.
Ban them. Ban them from the
Please. Here's a rapid list of things that have happened since October. Reggie paid the $750 that Carly owed to me in back rent. Carly and Reggie informed us at some point, either late November or early December, that they would not be buying the house as the repairs required amounted to more than $50K. I don't know where they got this number, as I have budgeted on multiple occasions to redo the flooring, and it would be less than $15K to redo the entire house, nor would repainting cost more than a few thousand or the bathroom remodel, as they intended to do the work themselves. We repaired the major damage in the bathroom recently for less than $500. They could not acquire rental housing due to having 3 cats and will indeed be staying in the house. We informed them that we are not renewing the lease and reiterated our reasoning.
Okay, good.
I made the
Strong
mistake of
line.
telling Carly that we owed on our mortgage, and they turned around and offered us $50K to buy the house from us, less than 1/3 of the market value of our house if we sold it as is. So it's worth $150K. We were all wrong.
Dude. Okay.
But Riley was most right. We politely declined and then promptly went home and screamed into pillows. They have repeatedly told Thea that they are desperate for money to the point of debating setting up a GoFundMe. All the while, Carly has gotten 2 brand new tattoos in the past year and has an international trip she has paid for in full that she's going on in the end of March.
Dude.
And Reggie was still not acquired even Reggie is still not acquired even a part-time job. We emergency installed a water heater that Reggie paid for that I will have fully paid back by the end of March. And Carly quit her job, and now the only income they will have after the end of this week is Reggie's military stipend. Carly nonchalantly stated that we would have to renegotiate rent for this month and next month's. There will be no negotiations.
Yes.
She made a bad decision and will have to live with the consequences of her actions.
Yes.
The most recent thing she did was text me 2 days ago asking if she could pay me in food for this month's rent. Knowing her, the amount that we'll pay will only be a couple meals, maybe $75 in groceries instead of roughly $500 they will owe. I owe Reggie roughly $500 left to pay off the last bit of the water heater. I jokingly answer that the electricity and insurance companies don't accept food as payment, so neither can I.
There we go.
She then offered to pay me what it would cost to pay these expenses, and then the rest she would pay in food. What is this food payment?
She is just stuck on paying in food.
Oh, is she gonna harvest food from her garden or something?
I'll create a farm and I will grow things, and you will get the
6 months
proceeds.
later, you will have so much corn.
Harvest will be fruitful.
Yeah, the grain you have. I have not responded. It's been a day and a half. They will pay me in cash and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done. No discussion.
Thank God.
My warning to all of you. Don't mix business and friends without getting to know said friends very well first. True. If I had known what I was walking into, I never would have allowed her to move it. And we got an update. But we knew from the beginning that this person was bad with money. Why would you rent to her?
Yeah.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, still shame on me. Fool me 4 times, that's just mean. That's just, you're taking advantage of me.
Yeah, but also, and it's like, this isn't a case of like, oh, is OP the a-hole or not? OP's not the a-hole. If anything, OP's the a-hole to herself. But like, you decided to rent to this person when you already knew they are not it. They are not it at all.
Yeah. There was nothing that they had done that would make you think, oh, like these are people that are financially responsible. And literally part of a rental agreement is ensuring that these people can pay the money. And she had never shown that. And you saw it firsthand. Like, OP, we love you. We love you. First of all, we love you.
You're great.
But you stupid. What are you doing?
Come on.
Come on. Don't rent to people who can't pay for things.
It's just not smart.
It's not smart. You put yourself into the situation.
I bet she goes out to like get a fancy dinner, and then she's like, I can't pay for this meal, but I can like paint a room in your house.
Yeah. I can pay you in food. How about I make you dinner? Update.
What?
Good effing God.
Oh no.
Thanks for all the comments. There was some great advice in there, and I really appreciate it. But I should clarify. The reason we let Carly move in, let us know.
Tell us, please.
Let us know the reason.
Better be good.
Is because she made it sound like she literally had nowhere to go. She'd spun a tale that her home life with her mom was not safe. Untrue. She made it sound like Tia was literally kicking her out that day. Also untrue. And she panically hounded me relentlessly in person and over the phone until my husband and I made a super quick decision to let her rent from us. Don't give in.
Don't give in.
I've learned this is a method of manipulation. I've reached out to an attorney. We talked about everything that's happened.
Here we go.
They read through the lease and gave us a few options. We wait until May 1st when Carly and Reggie are supposed to be out of the house. If they are not out, we deliver an intent to sell notice. That gives them 90 days to vacate the property after the lease is up. Not ideal.
It's a long time, yeah.
We deliver the intent to sell now. That means they have until mid-June to get the F out. Still not ideal, but better. If they're still in the house past 90 days, we file an unlawful detainer and the cops forcibly kick them out. We can't evict them because we don't have the grounds. Even with all of this, the courts just about everywhere are against landlords and in favor of tenants. That the minute their rent is late, we have grounds for the eviction. That gives them 14 days to pay or get the F out. But if they pay, the eviction process ends, so still not ideal. They can't get squatters' rights because they haven't been there long enough. I'm going to be telling my mother everything she's done because I'm pretty sure she has no idea. I'm also telling all our mutual friends. I've done a lot of self-reflection lately before writing this post and came to several conclusions. I know she's not my friend. I had a false idea that I was helping someone that I saw as a friend, and in the end, I enabled her crappy behavior. I'm aware I'm a doormat. I know I don't know how to set boundaries. I spent a lot of time on the phone and in professional offices over the last few days. I'm on a waiting list to see a therapist, okay, and learning to set boundaries because I don't ever want to teach my kids my bad behaviors and habits that got me into this mess.
Go off, Queen.
And for all of you who mentioned that it is a miracle my husband is still with me, why does Brenda always do that? He was with me along the whole process. I never did anything without his consent. Since we owned the house 50-50, I'm taking most of the blame because Carly was my friend. I've apologized to him, and we have had a deep conversation about working on communication. He apologized for not seeing sooner that my friend wasn't who she claimed to be and didn't warn me I was being manipulated. I'll update again when we get closer to May 1st unless something happens sooner. And update 2, they're out and have been since April 1st.
Let's go.
Life's been insane, and I've been so overwhelmed with this whole situation that it's been hard to get back on here and face it all again. They left the house a mess. But that's not surprising. They claimed they didn't have time or money to finish, even though there was a whole month left on the lease. Honestly, I'm happy that they're out. Though I'm pissed about the mess, I'd rather clean up a bit instead of fight them in court or kick them out. I told her mom and showed her everything, and her mom was angry as well and told her off a couple of times for 1, leaving the house in the state they did, and 2, treating me and the others the way she has. I've also started therapy, and I'm working on setting boundaries and getting over my people pleasing. The last I spoke to Carly was yesterday because I learned from a friend that she joked about leaving the house a mess on purpose because she was mad at me. I confronted her and asked why, even if it was a joke, because even jokes have some basis in truth. She said that it was because emotions were running high and she was stressed at the end when they were getting ready to leave. That she was frustrated with how little I did with the house while she was there, despite me repairing everything that needed it ASAP.
Dude.
And she was mad my husband and I stored some of our things in the garage. I explained that 1, it's our house, we can do that. 2, there was plenty of space in the garage for her things as well. And 3, none of her vehicles will fit in the garage anyway, as they were all too long and none of them ran, so she couldn't even get them into the garage anyway. By the way, you should always get into our little podcast garage by searching OK Storytime on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, so you can listen to us in your ear holes 24/7, 365 while you're working, while you're driving, while you're working out, while you're cleaning, anything. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right.
But we got a little bit more to the story. But my God, these people suck.
My God, they really do.
Carly also had to junk out 2 of the vehicles she left behind, even though she'd explained she had someone who could keep them on their property so she could work on them. I don't understand any of her logic. I'm done trying to figure it out. Last thing she said to me was that she was sorry, though I don't believe she genuinely is and is just saying it to make herself feel better. Thanks to everyone that's read and commented and given advice. It's been greatly appreciated. Sorry if it's a bit anticlimactic of an ending, but I'm relieved that it's done. Some good news is that we're working with a buyer now and are making steps towards selling for what the place is actually worth. We got a comments. So many red flags ignored over and over. You know she was a dumpster fire when she lived with Tia. Why would you think that she would be better when she was renting from you? Which that's kind of what we said.
A great question.
Reply, I don't know how the husband agreed to this. I am sure he heard lots of stories from OP. And another reply, because a friend in OP's relationship is a dumpster fire, and I assume OP browbeat her husband into agreeing to this crap show. Everyone's the a-hole, and OP owes her husband a huge apology. And another reply said, I read half the post and just got too exhausted. For someone with some financial sense, she sure didn't use it with this crap friend. And OP replied.
Ooh. Wow.
So we got OP clapping back.
A lot of hate.
My stupid, naive self hoped that the other 2 roommates would keep her in check, and I didn't learn until after she signed the lease that the other 2 had backed out. I'm too easy on people and far too forgiving, and I know that's all on me. And someone replied, but you said you were good with money. By letting her live there for so little, you cost yourself thousands. You don't sound naive to me. You sound like you lack confidence to expect people to treat you with respect. I do hope you learn from this, but I think you have a long way to go. You did know, shaking my effing head, you aren't a victim. You saw she was a filthy and lazy piece of poop and gave her a 4-bedroom house for $400 a month. And the comment too, I'm really having a hard time feeling bad for you in any way regarding this woman. I can't even wrap my head around why you would have rented her to her to begin with. You knew she was a slob. You knew she was completely unable to handle her finances, so you rent out your house to her? That makes absolutely no sense. You enabled her. And the last comment, the only victim is your husband.
Dang. Reddit as per usual going.
Oh my
For
gosh.
the jugular. For the jugular. And that is where that story ends. But we might got one more story, short story in us.
Oh.
It is hilarious.
All right. I'm excited. My entitled roommate refused to let me eat cheese because she hates it.
Evicted. Eviction.
This story is about my roommate, a very peculiar guy about whom I have a lot of stories to share, but I prefer to write more short anecdotes about him than a lot of different events altogether. So let me know if you'd like to hear them. The first time he came to see the house, he showed up with his parents. They asked 1,000 questions about the house, then called the landlord to say they would rent an entire room with 2 beds instead of just 1 bed in it. He didn't want to share the room with others, but he didn't want to rent a room with a single bed because he needed more space than the others. That was the moment where I realized I was facing not just an entitled man, but an entitled family.
Aha.
By the way, this comes from NA Anymore on the r/OK Storytime subreddit. So, after renting the room, the father sat down on the sofa with a grunt. Ugh, and the mother began washing everything the son could touch during his stay. Not the rest of the house, though. So, at the dinner time, we couldn't cook or eat because the lady had to rub the furniture chosen by the son to store his belongings. I guess to
Rub?
Yeah, rub it to clean it. The shelf on the refrigerator that the son had chosen to occupy, and so on. At a certain point while I was in my room, I heard them calling me loudly, OP! So I ran to the kitchen thinking of what could have happened. The son was behind the mother with folded arms, and she was vigorously rubbing the door of a piece of furniture. She looked at me and asked, "Do you eat cheese?"
Yeah, it's delicious.
I thought about it for a moment and answered, "Well, it depends. Some types of cheese." She glanced at me again, this time with pity in her eyes, and added, "Well, my son doesn't like cheese." I wasn't sure how to respond, so I tried to joke about it. "Well, it means I won't offer him dairy products," I replied, laughing, but they were very serious. Do you really want to eat cheese?" "Eat what?" "The cheese!" At this point, I was genuinely confused. The son just stared at me. "Why? Is he allergic?" I asked after a moment of reflection. It was very strange to talk about his son, who was more than 20 years old, as if he were not there. "No," the mother replied, "but he thinks it sucks anyway." I was in the okay phase again. "I understand." I just answered without really understanding, but she didn't let it go. "However, can you cook a lot of things without buying cheese? There is no need to eat it. No need." At this point, it was starting to become a matter of principle for me.
Yeah.
And I said, "I understand that, but it doesn't suck for me. In fact, there are some very good types of cheeses."
Uh-oh.
Man's defending cheese.
Uh-oh, this is about to be bad.
Here, the boy snorted. Whereupon I turned to him because the situation was starting to get really ridiculous. "You don't drink milk?" "Yes." He finally spoke.
What?
"And you don't eat yogurt?" I kept asking. "Yes." He continued. So the mother, suddenly satisfied, intruded again. "Exactly. You can eat milk and yogurt. He likes them. Those are okay." "But I'm the one who eats cheese, not him," I repeated a little dully, without really knowing what else to say. She got annoyed. "Whoever eats it has nothing to do with it at our house. Cheese doesn't come in, because otherwise he throws it away. He can't even stand it." "That's right. At your house," I replied. 3 people live in this house. Even if I chose to not eat cheese anymore, I certainly can't force the other boy to do the same. My reasoning didn't intimidate the lady, who tried to protest, but at that point, I simply turned on my heels and left. Unfortunately, the matter didn't end here. For months, we quarreled over the cheese problem.
For months?
With the boy screaming every time he saw it on our plates. "Cheese! My weakness!" 2 years have passed, but he's still a huge pain in my hiney.
God, you still live there?
And there's an update, dude. I would leave.
Run,
Cheese Man.
bro. Just get a second job to pay,
Yeah,
pay the lease
leave.
until it's done.
Update. His mother is a homemaker. His father does manual work. He is unemployed. How he can spend almost $1,000 a month alone is a mystery. However, I know that money is sent to him by his parents. And this is clear also for another reason. He has absolutely no idea of the value of money.
Ooh, I know a chick like this.
Yeah.
So I had a friend that lived with her, and she would get on the phone with her parents and be like, "Well, I need this much money. I need it now. Give it to me. Just give it to me." And like pout over it.
That's crazy. Get a job, kid.
Yeah.
Get a job. The first thing he did after moving in was buying things for himself. Okay, you'll say, it's normal to buy food, toothbrush, soaps, things like that. Yeah, too bad I'm not talking about things like that. His first trip back from the supermarket included pots, pans, a cutting board, cutlery, a pillow, and a drying rack.
I was expecting an anime pillow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of normal.
Something like
Initially, I was a little naive, having no idea how spoiled he was. Those are totally normal things to get, though. Oh, I pointed at these things were already in the house, and he replied, shouting at me, "No, you understand nothing. These things are mine, not for the house. He went to his room, changed the pillow on his bed, and went back to the living room and threw the old pillow at me with a disgusted face expression. Take! I would never use this. It was our first day of cohabitation. Over time, there have been other, at least unusual purchases, such as a personal coffee machine. That's not weird. These are all normal purchases.
But he's purchasing things they already have, at least earlier.
Yeah, it's because he's the only child. He doesn't know what shore is. Shore.
A set of personal basins or even personal pieces of furniture. That's a little weird. His most shocking and mention-worthy purchase is definitely a vacuum cleaner for personal use. And by personal, I mean only of his exclusive use, but that he only uses it in his bedroom. You know what? I'm giving this guy a pass on all that stuff. He can buy a personal vacuum if he wants.
I know where John and I stand on this one. If you have a roommate and they have a vacuum and you can't use it, it's a vacuum.
No, I mean I do think it's whack for sure.
Yeah.
But of like the things to buy and like
it's not like the most outlandish thing possibly.
Well, I guess he does have 2 rooms. He can store it in one of them.
So imagine the scene. He enters his room, turns on the vacuum cleaner, uses it in the few square meters that make up his room, then turns it off, leaves it in the room, takes the common broom and uses it to sweep up the common areas. Creepy. Let's go back to the topic of the post, food. My roommate has a serious problem with food brands. He buys only and exclusively the brands advertised on TV. Obviously, it would be useless to make brand names here since they are different in almost all countries, but think of your most common advertisements on your most common television networks. Well, that's what he would buy. If there is more than one famous brand, he buys a more expensive one. This also applies to home-delivered food. If there are 2 absolutely identical sandwiches sold by 2 different restaurants, he chooses the most expensive one because, I quote verbatim, if it costs more, it means it's better. Over time, I realized that he simply likes to spend as much as possible, even when it isn't necessary. Whenever he cooks for 3 people. Then he obviously eats it alone. Does that mean he eats for 3 people? No. This means that he cooks for 3 people, eats a normal portion, and throws away what is left over. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's psycho.
At least meal prep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
His normal meal is made up of first course, second course, side dish, and dessert. He eats a third of the first one, throws out the leftovers, eats a third of the second one with a side dish, throws it again, the leftovers, and then eats the dessert. He cooks so much food mainly because he takes pictures of it and sends it to his mom and to be told by her how good he is. His mother and his girlfriend as well fill him with so much praise that he thinks of himself as a chef.
This man has a girlfriend?
I think it's just saying that his mother's his girlfriend, maybe. But
I mean, like, that's what I would expect.
I know exactly what YouTube channel he's subscribed to.
ASMR mommy.
Yep.
Yeah. When I or the other roommate cook, he often comes to touch our food and sniff it with his nose almost inside the plate. He's just a regular ratatouille, you know? Do things to the food while on the cooker or provide absolutely unsolicited suggestions. Sometimes he also tries to make some compliments like it smells good to be a sub-brand meats. Or did you cook the soup? It doesn't seem to be disgusting. Last but not least, as if it weren't enough to throw away cooked food, he also throws away raw food. Sometimes he opens the fridge, takes the zucchinis he bought a few days earlier, and asks me, how long ago did I buy these zucchinis? I don't know. I like the high-pitched voice for him. To which I reply, I don't know, 4 days. He shrugs and comments, oh, well, they bore me. They bore me. Then he opens the dustbin and throws them away. He does it with zucchinis, eggs, apples, oranges, aubergines. I don't know what that is. Ham and so on. By the way, you should never throw away our podcast, which you can listen to on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. But just search an OK Storytime. And the best thing about that is you can listen to it when you're doing other stuff. Just pop us into your headphones and work, cook, eat, do whatever you need to do. Clap cheeks. You can do it all.
Ooh.
But I discovered that it's a habit for his parents too. The last time they came to see him, the mother opened the fridge, took his half-used butter, and asked him, when did you buy this? It has the Christmas package. It's old. Throw it away. It wasn't August. It was the second week of January. In the meantime, I've gotten to go grocery shopping at the discount store because I've had very little money, if any. But hey, the other roommate and I have to buy toilet paper, absorbent paper, dish soap, etc. for him too, because he doesn't give us money for those things. Isn't he a lovable, spoiled boy? And that is where that story ends.
I'm going to be for real. If this was a scenario I was in, I would talk to this guy. I would do my best to talk to this guy and be like, hey, man, you're throwing that food away and then like somehow get my hands on it
Yeah.
where he gives me the food.
Yeah, dude, just take that food if it's good.
Or be like, oh, don't throw it away in that trash. Let me throw that away for you.
Yeah. And throw it away directly into my mouth.
Or you're the best cook ever. Like, wow, you're better than Gordon Ramsay. You're the best in the world. Like, oh, can I do a little taste? Oh, wow, okay. I think you can.
I feel like you could finagle this to get him to cook for you.
Ooh.
Where it's like, all right, maybe you're fine with not having cheese in the house. If he's cooking, you know what would be sad? What if he's cooking 3 servings for him and his roommates, and he just wants his roommates to have a little?
Yeah, I will say, I don't know about this narrator.
Yeah, he honestly sounds kind of like okay. He sounds like he just wants to keep to himself.
I think he has his like weird quirks, but OP just made the unfortunate choice of trying to highlight things that weren't that crazy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
The first cheese thing was crazy, but everything after that didn't feel as crazy. But I'd like to
Yeah.
know from you guys, do you think this is crazy? What do you think about this guy?
Okay, just really quick. Let me phrase it like this. If you had a roommate back in, the apartment days, college days, whatever, that's like, oh, I buy this vacuum for here, but I only use it here, and then I sweep other places. I feel like seeing it and living with it, that would feel weirder
I
than
would
it is
not
to
care.
read about it.
I would
Yeah.
not. Sophia has a vacuum in her room.
That's where it is?
I think so. Yeah. She Sophia literally vacuums
But-
her room.
But she uses
That's
it
crazy.
in other. She'll use it in other places too if she deems it.
But that is where that story and this episode and this stream ends.
Aw,
So
so sad.
if you love us, make sure to subscribe.
We love you
And see you tomorrow.